Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Golden Ratio Podcast. I am Jen, GR Mom, joined as always by GR Dad.
Hi.
How's it going, GR Dad?
Great. I feel liberated by having no rules.
No rules!
With a Z.
We got a lot of stuff to talk about. Just got a lot of stuff to talk about with the squad.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do.
We need to talk. Everyone, we need to talk.
And it's important that you don't act all freaked out, because then that suggests that you don't want to talk. And it's hurtful.
It's like a trick.
You could just turn off this podcast, though.
It's like a trick. Here, I'm going to say something really serious that's going to freak you out. But if you act freaked out, I'll hold it against you.
Maybe it should be more like, wow, this person that I love has an important thing that they want to talk about, and that's very important to me, as opposed to like, oh crap, I'm in trouble.
I have a guilty conscience.
Yeah, you do.
Yeah.
Yeah, so honestly, things are not good in the household right now. Things between you and me, fine.
Yep.
I mean, good, great.
That's right.
Cheddar and I are fine. Things among the squad are not good. And we put up happy pictures because that's what we want people to see. And we show happy things that the dogs do every day because that's what we want people to see.
And there are happy times.
There are a lot of happy times, but the squad is not in a good place right now.
As a squad, especially.
Yeah, so we want to...
If they're a team, they're not winning any championships right now.
No, people are not.
Nobody's getting assists. Everyone's just biting each other.
So, last we talked, Remy and Nacho were at couples therapy, and they were staying with Michael, the trainer, at his house, getting couples therapy.
He has other dogs, too,
yes.
for realistic conditions.
Yep.
And a 2-year-old,
and
too.
And a 2-year-old.
Yeah.
Everybody got along fine at couples therapy. There were no fights.
Remy loved the 2-year-old.
Remy just kept following that 2-year-old around. It's a thing that I forget a lot because, obviously, we don't have kids. None of our friends have little kids, right? I mean, they maybe have teenagers.
Right.
But it's rare to see our dogs with little kids. And I'm always astonished when they are at how much they love kids.
Dogs, man, they have a sense.
Yeah.
They have a sense. Good dogs. Let's say good dogs.
Even Remy, who is by all measures not a good dog, loves kids.
He has a good heart.
He's a nice man. But so yeah, everything went fine at couples counseling. But for a while, with the two of them gone, it was Hops and Vink, Guac and Brody, and then Cheddar, the new boy. And Cheddar, of course, he had his surgery and he was settling in.
And he's blind.
So he's a lovely dude. No, he's not doing anything wrong. He didn't really know where he wanted to sleep once we tried to bring him upstairs to hang out with everybody. But the girls and Guac and Brody were like, okay, yeah, there's another dog here. It's fine.
Yeah.
We all hung out.
We've done this before.
Yeah. And so then it was time to drive back to Florida. So we're recording on Sunday. We started our drive on Friday.
Yeah, we broke it up this time. 2 days.
Which, because of the tension in the squad, it was very hard, but it is much nicer to drive it over 2 days instead of all at once.
Yeah. Pulling it together to drive hours 9 and 10 is a lot different than pulling it together to drive hours 22 to 23.
Yeah, for sure. So what we did was leave our house with 5 dogs, drive to Michael's house to pick up Nacho and Remy, load them in the RV, and then start our drive to South Carolina, where we stopped overnight. And I was like, well, this is not going to be great, that we're going to just jam everybody into a very tight, difficult space. And so I was like, I need a plan for this. And so the plan actually worked freaking great. It was great. So Remy always wants to ride up in the front part. The riding between the seats is an in-demand space. Remy wants to be there. Brody loves it.
Brody would love it, yeah. But Brody's giant and can't get up on the seat.
By seniority, it's Brody's spot. But I was like, Remy, Nacho, and Cheddar cannot be together.
That's true. Remy causes other problems. Brody doesn't.
Right. So Remy got to ride up in front, and then we blocked the exit from like the front cab spot into the back. So Remy was solo up there. He loved it. He rode shotgun.
He was on the co-pilot seat half the time, most of the time.
He was an adorable and enthusiastic co-pilot.
That's
he was
right.
great.
He had like 4 legs on the seat. Sometimes he had 2.
He'd fall asleep like hanging his front half off the seat.
He was like a kid. Well, I mean, I used to fall asleep like that in cars, where I was like up against the window or leaning forward or drooping off, or he was drooping a lot.
But he was great. Like, he was really affectionate. He was happy for some one-on-one time.
Yep.
So he did great up there. And then we know that Guac likes to be on the bed with his Blauhai, and he's very content.
You give him a Blauhai, and he really does retreat into his happy place.
When the whole time that Guac and Remy were at couples therapy, when Nacho and Remy were at couples therapy, Guac was able to have his Blauhai all day, and he was blissed out.
Because no one was taking it to rip it to pieces and rip its guts out. And,
yeah.
And Guac was just so pleased.
Yeah.
I think it was months of therapy condensed into those 3 days.
It was so good for him. But he can't do that with either Nacho or Remy because they try to take it.
They do take it, and then they rip it to pieces.
Right. So we knew Guac would ride up there, and ultimately I was trying to figure out where we're going to put Cheddar, and I was like, Guac will be fine. He'll be on the bed. And so I bought a baby gate to basically block off like the bed area, which has like a little floor space that goes into the bathroom. The baby gate worked great. It kept it separated. Guac stayed on the bed. Cheddar slept. You know, he gets a little nervous when we start driving, but then he'd settle down and just slept.
And he
right
had
there.
room to turn around and switch spots and stretch out, or stand up for a while or sit up. He had just room, but he could also lie on the little tiny dog bed.
Yeah, it wasn't a huge space, but it was more space than a crate.
And you skipped a step, which is, I would have loved to put the crate in the RV, but there's no good place to put it where it doesn't take up way too much space from Hopper and Vink, or doesn't fit. Just doesn't fit.
That's right. I mean, it would have had to have gone on a bed.
Yeah, I had this great idea that you put it in this, like, what do they call it? Grandma's attic in the U-Hauls above the driver's seat. There's like space, but the crate is too tall.
It's like a foot taller than that space.
It's too bad, because that would be a perfect space to jam a dog who could then be in a crate, right? Like a crate happy dog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
My friend Rue Yori, who I went to high school with, who some of you may know because he's on American Ninja Warrior quite often.
It's a great name.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. Both names together, really good.
So he rescues pit bulls. He got one of Michael Vick's pit bulls, and he had one of his pit bulls who was not from Michael Vick was a flying disc champion, frisbee.
Yeah,
like where they do like the tricks and everything.
Oh yeah,
he was
like
the first
jump off
pit bull
my
to do that.
back and throw and chase it and do
That's what
retrieves.
they did.
I mean, it's amazing. He had I watched the American's Top Ninja, or whatever it's called,
American Ninja Warrior
audition tape that he sent in, which included some of the footage from his pit bull frisbee retrieval. It's amazing.
Yeah,
the guy's pretty intense.
Yeah, he's a cool guy, and so he rescues pit bulls. But they bought an old ambulance at one point and called it the Dogulance, and they turned a whole wall of it basically into crates.
It's like the
for the dogs.
Ghostbusters.
Yeah. So they
ambulance.
Ambulance.
I mean, like not 50s ambulance.
No,
or
like a
40s
modern ambulance.
Okay,
yeah.
right,
So
right.
there's kind of a wall of crate, and they can have all their dog stuff in there.
Oh, that's a traveling
I was like,
genius.
I am impressed by the dog. It would work here if everybody just had a little cozy compartment.
That's what we need, is an ambulance.
Oh my God.
We leave the lights on it, and we can just like have them flashing, and then we can go wherever we want.
I have a whole story about that, but there's so much to talk about in this podcast.
This is gold.
Somebody write it down for later to tell the flashy light story. So anyway, we had these separate sections. So then Hops and Vink, Brody, and Nacho were in the kind of main section, and it was great. Nacho was like sleeping on top of everybody and just snugged up. He's a great car dog.
Nacho insinuated himself into like underneath Hopper's chin at one point. Put his head under Hopper's chin, and Hopper's like, okay, this is fine. This is
snuggly.
Okay. Brody stays on the floor level because he doesn't have the ups, but that gives him enough space to sit up or lie down and pant.
Yep. So that was good for our driving. Jared Dad just put the mic in front of Brody, but we never pick up the panting well when you do that. You
No,
try it a
well,
lot.
he also stops. He's a shy boy.
Yeah, we can hear it a little
That's
bit.
gold. Podcast gold.
It's absolutely not. All right, so that worked for the driving part, but for the getting in and out part, that's very stressful.
Ugh.
Because neither Remy nor Nacho have really met Cheddar at this point, and they're not cool with him. And so we can't, and it's such a tight space, right? That we can't be like, oh, we're just going to walk Cheddar past you now. That didn't work. So we had to be very choreographed, where it was basically like, take Nacho out.
Has anyone seen Das Boot? Because a little bit like that.
We would take Nacho out, and then I'd be like, Ingo, do not bring Nacho back here until I have taken all the other dogs
Yeah,
out.
so I'm like wandering Nacho around South Carolina rest stops, like
Yep.
waiting for the all clear.
And I would like take dogs out, put dogs in, take
Made
dogs
things
out,
easier.
put dogs in.
Yeah.
Yep. And yeah, we'd get kind of Cheddar back behind his gate, closed. But there was one point on that drive. So I owe like half an apology to Remy from the last podcast, where I was like, Remy is the problem. Everything I said in that last podcast is true, except Nacho is also the problem, because there was a point where I was trying to get Nacho to get up onto the bed, like where Hops and Vink rest.
Right.
So I could get past for something. Cheddar was on his side of the gate, but Nacho was getting stressed out because he was in a tight space, and I was trying to get him to move. This is what has gotten him stressed out before. And he started, like, you could tell that he was just about ready to chomp at Cheddar over the gate.
No.
Like, he started getting aggressive face and growling, and I could, it's because he was freaked out, but it's still not cool that he did that. And he was very unsettled on the drive, but kind of in general, right? Like, he's been at this house for a long time, so he doesn't know the Maryland house.
Nacho, yeah.
And as you pointed out, like, we had him up at Michael for a week before we went up there, and so
He was in the house for like 4 nights, maybe.
yeah. And then he's like back with Michael, but then he's at Michael's house.
And this is the RV, which he's never been
Never
in, right?
been in the RV before. So the whole trip back was very stressor for Nacho.
Once we drove, Nacho was actually great.
He loves
right? It was
driving.
the stops that were the stressor.
Yeah.
When he's a great car dog, and he fell right asleep or snuggled in while we were moving.
Yeah.
Right.
So we got to South Carolina. I want to save the talk about the South Carolina space for later in the podcast, because there's a lot to say.
Okay.
But we'll talk about the dog stuff first.
I mean, who's gonna fight you on this?
I mean, you.
Not me.
You're going to be like, let's talk about this thing with the thing.
I totally want to blurt something out. Go ahead.
You have many things to say about it,
Go ahead.
which are interesting.
I don't.
We'll do them
Go
later.
Ahead. Go ahead.
You got to talk about the wood.
Yeah, I know I do.
All right. So we get to this place in South Carolina, which is nice and spacious. And it's like, okay, we still have to keep these dogs apart. And so I put Nacho in, there was a 2-bedroom place. I put him in the guest bedroom, trying to get everybody else settled in. And I was like, at some point, maybe I can just take Nacho out from the guest bedroom and take him out and walk him around a little bit. And Cheddar's just kind of bumbling around because he's blind. He's almost
like,
entirely blind.
He's much more blind than Remy is and probably was.
I think that's right. He can't, like, he can see a little bit of shadow or something, but he bumps into stuff. Like, he really doesn't know what's happening.
He falls off stuff.
Yeah. So Nacho, Cheddar's just kind of wandering around, and I take Nacho past, and you can tell that Nacho is not happy, and I'm trying to get him to the door, and I'm like, just wait a second while I open the door. And he clearly is about to bite whoever comes in front of him. And I had to kind of pick him up by his collar to keep him from lunging at anybody till I could get him out the door. I walked him around.
So grumpy.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, on edge, not good. Then I walk him around and around and around. And then I'd bring him back in, and he still wasn't good. We set his crate up in there. So we had to keep everybody separate. And Nacho was in his crate, and Cheddar was kind of back in the guest room. The good thing is that Cheddar sleeps a lot because he's a very old man.
Yeah.
So it's not like, oh, he really wants to get out and play and do stuff.
It's not like Remy. If we put him in that guest room, Remy's just barking.
We
Or
did
trying to
try
get
to
out,
put
right?
Remy in there for a minute, and he barked and barked and barked.
Did not work.
But even like Remy was not like full on, I'm going to kill Cheddar. But he sees him, and I keep trying to introduce Remy to Cheddar because he doesn't seem like he necessarily wants to murder him. But it's like he gets up there and you know, is kind of like, what's going on? Like, can I chomp this guy? And Cheddar doesn't know what's happening. And if you can tell that, like, if Cheddar maybe tried to play back, that Remy would go after him, that he would feel attacked.
Feel attacked?
Mm-hmm. Like, they were in my office today, and Remy kind of tried to do a play chomp, and Cheddar just kind of looked at him, and you could tell that, like, Remy, like, tensed up and was about to go at him.
Remy doesn't know what he wants.
No. I mean, I'm sure he's just very on edge and freaked out. And so
it's like catnip to him or something.
I got Remy.
Like, it makes me crazy.
I got Remy out of the room, and I had the baby gate up between my office, which is basically where Remy was eating. So I closed the gate. So Cheddar was in my office, and Remy is outside. And they're kind of sniffing each other through the gate. And then Remy basically tried to bite Cheddar on the face. The gate was in the way, and starts like barking like crazy at him. So
angry bark.
Yeah, angry barking, not play barking. So this is kind of the situation that we're in right now.
So take back your apology, taking back your diagnosis that Remy is a problem from last week.
I know. I was like,
he's also a problem.
Totally. When Nacho like had, you know, those couple incidents on the drive where he's like, you know, in the RV and then also in the house, clearly ready to start a fight with Cheddar or with Remy, who was all kind of up there when I was trying to get Nacho out the door. Cheddar and Remy were like right there. So I get that Nacho felt kind of cornered, but he was ready to go at whoever came near him. I was like, oh, like I owe an apology to Remy because I was talking like he was the whole problem. And then it's like, no, Remy, you're a fucking problem too. Like everybody here is a problem. So yeah. So we're in a situation now where Remy and Nacho can pretty much be together. When they're outside, they're fine. They were playing today. We have to be really careful about the tension points. So we have like a new protocol in place where we have to put Nacho outside on the porch before we start making any meals, and he has to stay out there until we're done because they've had a fight around food kind of excitement. We can't have them at doors at the same time because if Nacho starts feeling like pressured or confined or like stuff's getting tight.
And when there's four dogs trying to squeeze through the door, that's a real tension for him.
Yeah. And that happens all the time here, right? Mm-hmm. So it means we need to, like, if Nacho's going to go out, we need to, and Cheddar's in another room for all of this. We'll talk about this later, but then we need to put Nacho in, if we want to let Nacho out, we have to put Remy in another room to let Nacho go out. And so there's a lot of baby gates and a lot of coordination of like, who's blocked off in what space, so we don't have that kind of thing happening. Cheddar is now in my office. I had to take the baby gate down and just keep the door closed because Remy was going at him through the gate. So if we want to take Cheddar out, we have to put Nacho in the crate. We have to put Remy behind the baby gate in the kitchen or in another room, and then Cheddar can come out. And he can't be outside with the rest of the dogs. I mean, with Nacho or Remy. He can be outside with everybody else and is fine. This is a highly unideal situation for everybody.
It shouldn't be a logic puzzle to, like, you know, let the dogs out or to decide who can eat together or who can who can breathe the same air.
Yeah, and when Remy and Nacho were at Michael's house, it was just like easy, like it has been with all of our other dogs. Not that, you know, like we had 7.
Oh, for us. I was talking about Michael's house. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. For us. Like we've had 7 dogs before. And 2 of those dogs were Parmesan and St. Patrick, who were a lot of work, who were both being...
Swizzle.
Yeah, so, I mean, we've had a lot of dogs who are a lot of work. When we had Parmesan and St. Patrick, they were both being hand-fed. at the same time, which is like, it's a ton of work when dogs are at that point where they're like at the end of their life. You need to hand feed them, super fragile.
And other dogs are like, ooh, I would like some of that hand feeding food too. And like, you got to avoid the crowd.
And there was zero tension.
Yeah.
With that.
We didn't have to worry about losing a hand or anything.
Yeah. So this is like, yeah, like having 7 dogs is a lot. And I mean, it's too many. It's always been like too many. Like, man, it's like real hard to manage that many. But the problem isn't the number right now. It is the combination of dogs. And we've gotten to a point with the tension, even keeping Cheddar out of it, the tension between Remy and Nacho has made it so both of them are having a lower quality of life. Like, Nacho's having to spend much more time in his crate. He's not overly crated. He like swam for 4 hours today, and I took him for like 3 miles of walks, and I played fetch with him, and you did stuff. So, he's kind of, the time he would be sleeping, he's sleeping in there. But
Right.
he still doesn't want to be in there as much as he is.
Mm-hmm.
And he has to be in there now because we can't just rely on everybody being out.
Right.
Remy is fucking neurotic. We have a lot of vet appointments this week, and we're going to try getting him on some Better Living Through Chemistry anti-anxiety meds beyond what he's on already.
I mean, it's really showing that he was chained up for his whole life, right? He just hasn't learned a lot of things, and he's just, as you say, he's got no filter, no emotional regulation. It's all just like from 0 to 180 and nothing in between, and he can't go back to 0.
I think he has also gotten worse, and I don't know if it's connected to him having cancer or if it's just kind of a natural progression. But like, I was looking back at pictures where like Nacho was sitting on his head, or you think about how he played with Boods.
Yeah.
And he wasn't this on edge about everything. He didn't bark as much as he does now.
True.
I mean, he always barked too much.
He really didn't like, after the biopsy, having the cone on,
Yeah.
and not being able to scratch his itch, and just, it was a whole weird situation, right? Not being able to play, not being allowed to play with Nacho.
Yeah.
I think really stressed him.
Yeah. So it's not that he was ever like great about this stuff, but he wasn't this bad.
Right.
So, yeah. And then, we have Cheddar, who's an incredibly sweet dog, and he's so happy anytime, I go in and hang out with him, and I try to like make time where it's like, I'm going to go in, we're just going to sit there, I'm going to pet him.
He wags, and
He's so,
makes a happy face.
yeah.
Yeah.
And he's very old, so he sleeps most of the time. It's not like he's in there like wondering where everybody is. Every time I look in there, he's asleep, and he wakes up, and I pet him for a while, and then he goes back to sleep. He's the kind of dog that we got into this whole business to do exactly that. An ancient dog with like some weird health problems who needs a lot of care. And there's absolutely no way he can stay at this house with Nacho and Remy.
Yeah. It's just not fair to him. Yeah.
No, like, why would we keep him when he has to stay isolated in another room the whole time? Like, that's not the best life for him.
No. That's almost like not being here.
Yeah. And so, we have no idea, like, how this is all going to work out now. But, for Cheddar, when we foster a dog, you have to foster them for 2 weeks. He's about a week in.
Hasn't even been 2 weeks.
It's been 1 week.
Hasn't even.
So he's going to the ophthalmologist this week. I don't think he's not going to have surgery for his cataracts because he had such a hard time with surgery on the fixing. There's no way they would do the surgery again.
He reacted very strongly, kind of badly to anesthetic.
Yeah, we don't know the details of what happened, but the fact that they wanted to keep him that long, and I think, didn't he say gave him a run for his money? He gave us a run for our money with the anesthesia. Something like that.
I think the vet said, I'm glad we started with the baby dose or whatever, the little dose of anesthesia, because apparently I'm all inferring, right, from very few comments, but they were worried.
I think what it means is he almost died.
Yeah. It does sound like that.
Yeah.
Like he if we'd used a normal dose, he might have just not woken up.
Yeah. So the ophthalmologist, we took Manchego there and we took Remy there. They're very conservative about whether they will do this surgery. And so the fact that he had trouble with the anesthesia, there's no way they'll do it. So maybe they'll give him some eye drops or stuff that help, but he's not going to be, a long-term patient there. So it could be this time next week, we go, okay, like he's had his 2 weeks. He's all medically stable because he doesn't really have any problems. He's blind, but he doesn't have any.
No, we got rid of the fleas and the heartworm or the roundworm. Yeah.
He's fine.
Yeah.
And so then he'll go up for adoption on the great website. I mean, with Remy and Nacho here, there's no way to reasonably have him stay. We can't just have him in a room by himself all the time.
It's not the best environment for him.
And then even if we adopt him out, we still have the Nacho Remy problem, and we don't really know what to do about that right now. A lot of people listened to the last podcast, and a few people were like, well, I'll take Remy. And we're not trying to rehome Remy. Like, he's got a lot of shit to deal with, and, we're on board with taking care of it. I think part of whatever we do there is going to depend on how long Remy has left. He's going to the oncologist this week also. So it could be he's got a few months left. It could be he's got a few years left. And we've got to figure out something that isn't this coordination.
Yeah, for his sake and for Nacho's sake, but also for Remy's sake, yeah.
And I mean, a thing that we've been talking about, just, sorting through this kind of dramatic change in things, is this also means we can't foster any other dogs with this current setup.
No, it would be sort of unfair to expose them to Remy and Nacho. Mostly Remy, but also Nacho.
Yeah, and we can't. Yeah, I mean, as much Nacho, right? Like, Remy's more of a in-your-face dick, but like Nacho is
surprising dick too.
Yeah, and I mean, we had never brought a new dog in with Nacho, right? And he's good. Like, he was good with all the dogs at camp.
I know, he was great at Michael's. They were fine. Michael just noticed that they didn't really treat each other like brothers, which is true, but they weren't a nightmare at his place.
Yeah, Nacho is not dog aggressive. Nacho is aggressive when he feels trapped.
Yeah, he's quick to feel cornered or quick to feel stressed.
Yeah. So yeah, there's nothing really to report about all of this.
No, it's easier here. Just the way the layout of the house is. There's not as many sharp angles and tight doorways, which were those bottlenecks cause stress. And everything just seems like there's more usable space to put dogs.
Yeah. But there's just a lot of, especially for Nacho, right? Like, Nacho has to kind of be in the crate when he's not actively doing stuff or when Remy's around, because like Nacho and Guac were playing today and it's fine, but Remy then stands there and barks at them the whole time. And he's kind of always done that, but he's way more edgy now about it than he used to be.
Yeah.
And gets himself really worked up.
And it makes everyone else anxious too.
Yeah.
Me. But also
both humans for sure.
But also, Guac and Nacho.
Yeah, and Remy is very hard to regulate. Like, it's not like you can calm him down. He's either at like calm normal or super wound up and agitated, like upset.
And then he's kind of got the crazy eyes too, like Nacho, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not that always turns into aggression, but it means that he's kind of right on the edge. So if like one bad thing happens, it might.
Yeah, and he's not receptive to anything calming or commands or pets, right? He's always just like looking around kind of crazy.
Yeah, and that's not really a problem that we can fix for him. What? Right.
Oh. I think that's sort of that's just the way it's years of conditioning, right? We're not dog therapists where we can be like, Remy, so tell us about your trauma, and
Yeah.
can we, how can we fix,
Let's do some breathing
let's do
exercises.
some behavioral modification, and really just, what really stresses you out. We'll expose you to this a little bit.
So yeah, I mean it's a very hard situation to be in. It's like sad for poor Cheddar because honestly, like he's the kind of dog we want, but we have Nacho and Remy, and they are the dogs that we have, and they mean we can't have the kind of dog that we want. And Remy has so many problems, and it's like super sweet that like a number of people message us and were like, I would totally take him and take care of him, and like really meant it. Like that's great. We're not trying to get rid of him.
Right.
But then like poor Nacho, right, is like he's a good dog. He is not an aggressive dog, but I think there are way too many dogs in this house for Nacho.
Yeah, I think he would like more attention or less interference from other dogs.
Yeah. He'd be good with like one, like an only dog where people want to give him a lot of playtime, or like with one really good buddy.
Yeah.
Like if it were just Nacho and Guac, that they'd be. Actually, Guac is like, could we please just not play this much?
I'm too old for this. Can we have a younger dog who can play more? Also, he takes my ball.
Yeah. It makes me sad that like poor Nacho has to like spend a lot of crate time. Even though like, I mean, we're both making extra efforts to give him more activity. It's not that he's
deep asleep in his crate 80% of the time, right? I mean,
yeah.
he doesn't hate it, but yes, it feels weird. It feels bad.
It'd be much nicer to like. He's such a good bed snuggler, and he's like good when he's snuggly on the couch, and it's just like, who knows what's gonna happen if he's out here.
Yeah, if someone steps on him, or Remy tries to sit on him or something, he's gonna be like, no,
yeah,
don't.
So we don't know what we're gonna do, but like we read all of the comments that everybody writes, and like, of course, in an ideal world, like Cheddar would totally be staying, and it would be like this big happy family. But man, like we are so far from that universe in the household, and we don't show that, right? Like we don't show like dogs growling at each other, or like
doors being closed in their faces.
Yeah, or Remy, standing in the kitchen behind the grate barking constantly.
Yeah, I mean, there's a couple of videos of the doc, right, where Remy's on the porch just barking his head off.
Yeah.
Just imagine that, but closer and more.
Yeah, indoors.
In your face.
In your face. So yeah, I mean, the current setup definitely has Cheddar being adopted out. I mean, maybe things change. We still have another week, and we're not making any decisions until it's time. That said, if you want Cheddar, apply to adopt with Great, because they have to do a home visit before you're eligible to adopt, and that's a process. So if you do if you are like, I kind of love that Cheddar guy, and man, is he a good dog, you have to live in like vaguely the DC area. West Virginia is okay,
probably southern Pennsylvania is probably
the border. They've adopted dogs out to southern Pennsylvania, but you need to. The website explains the whole process, but if you do live in that area and you think you want him, you fill out an application to get approved as an adopter, and you have to schedule a great person to come to your house, and everybody who lives in your house has to be there. So if you have kids, if you have a partner, you all need to be there, and if you have pets, they need to be there too, and it takes a while to get that scheduled. So if you are committed, then you got to be like, we will clear our schedule for whenever anybody comes, and everyone will be here.
Yeah, because you don't want like one of the spouses to be not there, and then turns out that spouse really doesn't like dogs, or was not consulted on the decision and is like hostile or negative towards the dog.
And I have had that before.
Yeah, you've had that with everyone there, and one of the spouses is like, I don't want a dog.
Yeah,
I said no.
I was adopting one dog out, and I think I had brought a dog that they were considering. Maybe I was doing a home visit, and one of them like really was like, I love Goldens, I want Goldens. Someone else like, I really want like a Cavalier King. What's the name?
Cavalier King
whatever.
Spaniel,
One
I
of those.
think.
Like there was some other breed, and like one partner was like, absolutely this breed. I've been looking at breeders. I've been looking this, and the other guy's like, yeah, I really want to rescue Golden. And I was like, it's not that like these people would be bad, but it seems like they're maybe not on the same page.
Yeah, and they might be
want.
bad, right? I mean, that's the thing, right?
Yeah.
And you don't want just one caregiver and the other one not.
Yeah, and the first dog I adopted out, I've told the story before, like I brought her to like 20 places. Everybody who applied I brought her to, which is actually not how it's supposed to work. And there was one like this lady was crazy. I mean, she had a shrine to her dead dog, and she was like following us around like everywhere, and like, come look at this and come look at this, and I want this dog so bad. And
Come into the basement.
And I'm like, okay, well, I've got to, meet your husband and talk to him too. She literally did come into the basement and let me show you the stuff.
You did?
Yeah.
What?
And then I'm like, I've got to talk to everybody, right? Like everyone needs to be there when you bring the dog to visit. And the husband was like, absolutely did not want a dog. Like you could just tell, like he would barely make eye contact with me, didn't want anything to do with the dog that I was showing, like wouldn't pet her, wouldn't even look at her. And I was like, absolutely not.
So this is why we do the home visits. It's a real pain, right? I mean, I understand the idea that, oh, you don't have to get a home visit to adopt a human child. Well, maybe you should. But also, there's a real reason, because if the dog gets given up 2 weeks later, you haven't gained anything and it hurts the dog.
Yeah.
Or worse, right? There are also worse scenarios, but you're trying to find a forever home. I mean, it sounds cheesy.
And all the dogs that I've placed, I have just been so thrilled to like take them to the place. I mean, I was just like looking at the foster list. Like we did a thread, I think in 2017, with all the foster dogs, and I was looking through, and the last dog that we adopted out, Zeus, maybe Ross, one of the Mutos, I brought to this family, and they were it was like two teenage boys and then a mom and a dad. And they were just so delightful. They were so excited to see this dog. Like the kids were like, it's like a 12 and a 15-year-old boy, right? Like not my normal audience. And I was utterly charmed by these kids. And like the dog like went in with the 15-year-old in his room and was on his bed, and they were like playing video games together, like the kid and the dog. And it was like, you could tell that the dog was so happy with these people just in this like hour that I went there.
Yeah.
Like that's ideally how it works.
That's great.
Right?
It's a good match. You can get a good match, right?
And and so it's been every dog I have placed through great. Like I have been really careful. I have picked really carefully. I know how to do it. And it's like these dogs go on and have these amazing lives. And it's like, so Cheddar could do that, right?
Yep.
He could go to a family who's going to love him. Like everybody here sees how Barb Nelson is with Sizzle, who we adopted to her. Sizzle was our foster. We adopted her out to the Nelsons.
Reluctantly.
Yes, with much sadness from Mingo.
Loved Sizzle.
I know, she's so good. She would have been a good one to stay. But like, she's so happy there.
Oh, she is in heaven. It is absolutely the perfect thing.
Just thriving.
No doubt.
Getting all the love that she needs. And that's the life that we could give Cheddar, or we can keep him in a separate room away from all of our dogs and keep him. Why would we do that when there's a zillion people out there who would love to have him?
Yeah, I mean, we're depriving him of the perfect situation by putting him in a good situation. This is not terrible, but it's not perfect.
Yeah. And honestly, that is the situation with Nacho right now too. I don't know what an ideal situation would be for Remy. Maybe if he were an only dog somewhere, it could just be like he's just got these demons. But Nacho certainly there's a better situation for him too. Like, it's just very sad.
Mm-hmm.
But anyway, I mean, given the current tensions, Cheddar will probably be going up for adoption. Like I said, we're not deciding anything, but if you think you might be interested, get that application into Great and get your home visit done.
There's a process.
Yeah, there's a process, and it's not like if we decide that it's better for him to go live someplace else, we're not going to wait 2 months for somebody who really wants him to get their stuff done. We're going to put him up there, and if a bunch of people want him, we're going to pick the right one.
Because you control the timing, not me. For me, it might be 4 or 5 years. Like, I don't know. Let me think about it.
Yeah.
Okay, time's not right. I don't know.
So anyway, that's that. That's the cheddar cheese.
That's the situation.
Yeah, it's not good, you guys. I mean, it's not. Things are not great right
It's
now.
a bit too tense for being great. To be great.
It's
too
like
tense to be great.
It's too tense to even be like mediocre. It's real bad right
I'd
now.
say it's fully mediocre.
I'd say it's poor, and I aspire to mediocre.
Poor
at this point.
plus.
Poor plus. Wait, where's the plus come from?
I made it up. What do you think? We're on a scale.
Like, how are we getting? What's bringing it above just regular poor for you?
That there are good times, and that they swim and they have a good time, and that we can convey love to these
That's
dogs.
true.
And so it's not all bleak.
That's true.
There are good times and good snuggles and good face licks,
Yeah.
and that's not fake. That actually does happen. It's just balanced by like all this walking on eggshells.
It's making me all weepy.
I'm sorry.
No, it's very nice. It just it sucks that it's this hard right now.
No.
I just want everybody to be happy.
Why aren't you all just better about living together?
Stop being assholes.
Why are you such traumatized beings? Go to therapy,
Seriously,
dogs.
I'm in therapy. Why are you not in therapy?
And it's not because of the dogs. It's not like they drove you to therapy.
No.
Although they would have if not. It's the thing.
I would just like to point out that we can see Nacho in his crate, and he just flipped over on his back. He stuck one leg straight up in the air for about 5 seconds.
A back leg. It was a back leg.
I couldn't tell.
For full drama, that's back.
All right, so that's the dog updates. You guys, it's not great. Please send good vibes. But, yeah. Who knows what's going to happen?
We don't.
Nope, we're just waiting and seeing.
Day by day.
All right. Let's talk about the place that we stayed in South Carolina. Let's switch gears. So let me just do a preface. Ingo's got a lot to say about this place, but I just want to give it.
I mean, I do and I don't. I don't want to overdo it. This is, I mean, have this like a shtick.
Okay. So we drove up all at once, and it went fine, but it's rough, even with us sharing the driving, to drive for 21 hours.
That thing, driving in that
The RV
plastic
I hate it
box
so
for
much.
21
I
hours.
hate it so much. So I was like, we have got to do this in 2 parts going back. Like, I know we just want to get home, but like, you know, we left like before 6 a.m. and we got in at 3 a.m.
You know that, I'm trying to find an analogy because I love analogies or metaphors, right? You know that glass, the plastic bubble that they have for bingo games where they tumble it around and the balls
You
go
turn
around
the little
and one of them pops out.
Yeah.
It feels like being in that for 21 hours.
So good. It's so good.
It's like you're tumbling around and you're protected from the outside world, but it sucks.
Oh, it's so bad.
Ugh.
That is what it's like.
It's just unpleasant. It's just an unpleasant drive.
I was like, we can't. Like, we've got to stop somewhere. And I was like, I'm going to find us a place like in South Carolina. It's like 7 or 8 hours away. So then we'll have like a 7 or 8 hour day and like a 12-hour day. And
Which we've never done before with the RV. We've only ever just plowed through and done 22, 23, sometimes 24 hours straight. Just gritted the teeth and gone.
Now, the first time we did sleep for like 4 hours in the parking lot of a Walmart,
Boy,
which was worse.
That was also never to be done again.
That was terrible.
That was worse than driving
Yeah.
those 4 hours. That was not restful, and it was just terrible. Yeah.
Oh, it was awful. So I start looking for places that will take dogs, where we can like park the RV, right? You can't stop in a town.
But we had such a nice place, also in South Carolina, sort of coincidentally,
It's nearby, yeah.
where we came down with the Queso gang.
At the cabin.
The cabin in the lake, and that's where Queso did her escapo, and it was like, that was real nice. So we had a sort of, we knew it was possible to have nice places.
Yep. And so I found this place, this house, and it's like cute looking house, and I messaged the guy and I was like, listen, we have 6 dogs. I understand that's a lot of dogs. I know it says you take dogs, but like not everybody wants to host us with 6 dogs. So, I just wanted to check before I book it. Here's our social media if you want to see the dogs.
This is before Cheddar existed. So
Yes.
she was being honest. It's just we didn't even think about 7.
Yeah. Oh my God. No, I was just going like, I think we should really have 5 instead of 6.
But it's also a reminder how quickly all this developed and happened. It's like we planned Cheddar for weeks. It just was like boom, boom.
Yeah. I booked that place before, like after we arrived in Maryland and before we knew about Cheddar. So he's like, yeah, that's fine. And I'm like, you sure? And he's like, yeah, it's fine. So I was like, okay.
Yeah.
So I booked it. And I was like, the worst case, he's going to be like, there was fur everywhere. And this has happened with some other places that we've booked where I'm like, I've got a bunch of dogs. And they're like, it's fine. And then they send me a message. They're like, I'm not going to leave you a bad review on Airbnb, but there was fur on everything. And the dogs weren't allowed on the furniture. And like, we have guests who don't have pets here. And like, there was, fur on stuff. And I was
Dogs aren't allowed on the furniture is really kind of like, we can't control them.
Also, fur is going to get on shit if you have 6 dogs in a house.
Yeah,
It's on the
floats,
ceiling.
It floats up. It
does.
floats up.
So I'm like, worst case, he's going to be mad and I'll offer to pay whatever extra cleaning fee he wants,
But
which I always do.
We're putting guac on the bed. I mean, there's no doubt about this. I don't care what the policy is.
So we get to the place. So it's like we get off 95 and then we drive like 7 miles down this road and then we drive like
bumpy road. I mean, you feel every like, slight unevenness.
this is partially the fault of the RV.
Yeah, no, it's totally the fault of the RV,
Yeah.
right? It does kind of crappy on the freeway, but it's really bad when there are bumps.
Yeah.
Oh.
So we're 2-lane country road, turn onto another 2-lane country road, and then it's like
It's dark.
it's so dark, and then there's like some horse fencing, and then there's the entrance to something plantation, and it is exactly like what you picture. You turn in to the driveway, it's dirt, two-track dirt, and in front of you is the big plantation house, trees, Spanish moss on either side, and you go, if I didn't know that people were enslaved and tortured here, this would be a beautiful place. Which is what I think every time I go to a plantation.
But I do.
But I do know it.
But I do.
We are not staying in the big plantation house. I would have recognized if that's a place we were staying. But we pull in, and I had seen something that was like, this house is like renovated something house at such and such plantation. And I was like it's definitely not an old plantation-y house. Like this
The
is
one we stayed.
the one that we
No,
stayed
it's like
in.
a hunting lodge kind of thing.
The inside was done up like that, but the outside, like, it's clearly a newer house that
Yeah.
was built on this property. So
Yeah.
the big plantation house is still there.
And it's like siding, right? I mean,
Yeah.
not anything wooden, but it's still that kind of style.
Yeah, I
It's
mean, it
not-
was maybe built in the 60s.
Yeah, but it's not like a brick mansion or anything
No,
like that.
no. No, just like a one-story kind of boring ranch with siding.
From the outside, it would be at home in a suburb.
Absolutely.
Hmm?
Yeah, so I had sort of seen like, oh, the something plantation. I was like, oh, maybe this is like, there was a plantation here and somebody bought it and developed some stuff. There's like a little lake, and I think there's a couple other houses. In any case, this was not part of the plantation. It's clearly newer than that, but it's in the plantation
Right.
property.
We were like between plantation house and
barn.
horse barn. Yeah.
Yeah. Dirt road, go past the big plantation house, turn down more dirt road, get to this
Spooky
house.
big trees and Spanish moss.
We got a lot to talk about if this place was haunted. I don't want to these people were lovely. So we get into this house. I will let Ingo describe what it looks like. But the important thing is I go in, and on the big dining room table is like a wooden tray, and it's got 2 bottles of water. It's got like a couple other little things, and then it has 6 milk bones laid out individually.
Big milk bones.
Yeah, the big giant milk
size.
bones. And each one has like a little name card on it with the dog's
Printed name card.
Yes.
It was very nice, very thoughtful.
Vink, Hopper T, everybody's
That's right. Chief Brody.
got way
it was
in
so
there.
nice. It was so nice.
It made me cry. I mean, obviously I'm a little emotional anyway, but it was really nice.
Mhm.
And yeah. And so it was absolute. I will let you talk about the whole inside, but I
No,
will
sure.
say it was absolutely stunning. Like there's a big clawfoot tub in the bathroom with like a chandelier.
That's
The
right.
4-poster beds. Like it. A lot of the places we've stayed that took all the dogs are kind of Spartan. I mean, the cabin wasn't like that, but like that place near Savannah. Did you ever stay in that weird little place with me? It was sort of like a duplex in the woods.
Yes.
Yeah.
That was spooky for other reasons.
Yeah, but really Spartan
Spooky though.
and spooky. This place was warm and lovely, and if we hadn't been having all the dog tension, it would have been a great place to just hang out with the dogs.
Yeah, and they said you can. There's a paddock with a fence. You can let the dogs run around the paddock, and
Yeah.
you can let them off leash. And I mean, it was they were very accommodating, very nice and understood. And
The hosts were
the
great.
space
Like we
was good.
didn't see them, but the communication with the guy was great. They
Mhm.
were, everything. It was just like very well appointed. So, huge fan of the place. Would totally stay there again. Not that I ever want to do this drive again. If you're looking for some place kind of in the middle of South Carolina off of 95, let me know and I will send you guys a link to it. Now, here
Yeah.
you go. Tell us what it looked like on the
I
inside.
feel bad. Now you're making me feel bad.
Well, I'm going to
'cause
talk about how it's like seems haunted, which I don't want to make anybody think it's actually haunted, but there's a lot of spooky shit out in the middle of the country in South Carolina.
in dark. It
In
was
the
dark.
dark.
Remember, we
Yeah.
came in the dark.
Yeah.
Also.
Oh, I remember. I
Yeah.
walked around a lot in the dark with
With some
Nacho.
sounds.
Yeah. Anyway, tell us what it looked like on the inside.
Well, I mean, I keep saying hunting lodge, right? But the decor was.
What materials would you say the decor was made out of?
It was wood.
How much wood?
It was lacquered pine. So the floors are this like shiny lacquered pine in very good shape, right? Much better than
Perfect
our
shape.
floors because no dogs have scratched it up. Little slippery for hops, but no rugs.
Never in an Airbnb.
Fair enough, but
Yeah.
it's like just floor. So
Yeah.
it's just long, wide, 12, 18-inch boards
Yep.
on the floor of this like lacquered pine.
Yep.
Walls, same material.
Mm-hmm.
Lacquered pine.
Yep.
Same knot holes, same everything.
Yep.
Ceiling, same lacquered pine. I felt like I was inside a cigar box. Like if you put me in a cigar box and close the lid, I'd be like, oh, this is what it must feel like. So it was just so much wood. It was so much wood. And then the lights, were chandeliers made of antlers,
Yeah.
right? So it's like super hunting lodge vibe.
Yeah. There were no heads on the wall or anything, though.
Everything was wood though. All the
And you kept
cabinets
going
were
like,
wood.
Jen, there's so much
But
wood.
then there's like different kinds of wood for the cabinets, which is probably good, but it would have been funny if they'd all been that same lacquered pine. But there was, it's just a lot of that pine. And seriously, the ceilings looked like the floors. If you had rotated everything, you wouldn't be able to notice, right? You'd be like, oh, there's a lamp on the floor. No, I'm on the ceiling now.
I think
It's
it
like,
looked nice. I mean, it's
it
not my
was
personal
nice.
style, but I thought it was well done.
either new or very well maintained.
It's
Fair.
new.
There was
They
like a
had whole
nice
thing.
fireplace. I mean, the Airbnbs, the dish, there was a full set of every dishes. There were glasses. There was a Keurig. I mean, it's a really
There's
easy
like
to
an Instapot.
easy
Yeah.
to live in. Yeah, there's a rice cooker. They had grits. Like they had,
Yeah.
you could like have grits if you wanted. They had oatmeal. It's everything is very nice at a very nice level.
Yeah.
But the decor for me was too much of this one
Too
kind
much
of
wood.
pine. It was just 360 degrees of wood
It was.
in every direction. So it was a little bit too much wood for me.
Yeah.
There was no brick. There was no siding. There was no
Drywall.
drywall even. No, it was all wood.
Wood. All
It was all
wood.
wood. I was a little creeped out.
Was the bathroom all wood?
Yep.
Yeah.
Oh, it was all wood.
Yeah, I guess
Everything was wood.
so. It was nice though.
It was nice, and the bed was good to sleep in, and it was all nice.
And it is, I mean, classic low country on the outside, right? Big, tall, giant old trees, just dripping with Spanish moss.
Also with dew in the mornings,
Yeah.
dripping
Though I gotta say, I was out walking Nacho a lot, trying to calm him down
in the dark.
in the dark. and it was kind of cold. I mean, it was probably 50.
Yeah.
Yeah, walking around in the dark. And there's one point where it's like we're walking up and down past this horse fence on the paddock. And there was like one kind of overhead light, like sort of like a street light, but on the property.
Floodlight, yeah.
Mm-hmm. And so it kind of cast a light partly in front of the house that we're staying in. And there's one point where like we had walked down towards the barn and we were walking back, and I see like this mist kind of rolling at ground level from the paddock through.
Was it forming
the fence.
into something? Was it forming into something?
It was like a clear
person.
blob of mist. It wasn't like the whole thing became mist. And I was like, it looks like it's going to form into something. It didn't. By the time I got up there, I couldn't see it anymore. But it was, this is not a fake thing. I am seeing this like ball of mist passing from the paddock through the fence towards the little lane where I'm walking up and down with Nacho.
Oh, and then there was like, we came in the dark, but there's like a lake right behind the house too. And there's like things sticking out of the lake.
Yeah.
It wasn't like
Was it bones? No.
It could have been bones, but it was like tree trunks that had been submerged recently. So it must have just flooded the lake.
Yeah.
But it looked like little skeletal fingers or something.
And in the driveway, I mean like the dirt entryway where we parked the RV.
Yeah.
Just outside.
Yes.
Just outside on the ground is a sort of like stuffed bunny rag doll.
Velveteen bunny looking thing.
Yeah. Just laying on the ground. And I was like, I should pick that up, but I'm like 80% sure it's haunted and I'm not going to bring that home with us.
None of the dogs picked it up.
They didn't?
Not Venk, who picks up everything and runs around with it. Not Nacho, who's the new guy who picks. They all sniffed at it and they're like, bad vibes. And they were like, no.
I have a picture of it, you guys. I'll post it.
I'm not touching this weird bunny thing. I mean, if it had been a normal stuffed animal, they would have run with it.
And I would have been like, get that thing in here. I've picked up stuffed animals from the ground, washed them, and brought them home many times. Trash monkey for one.
Monkey. That funky monkey.
I've got like a stuffed shark. I've brought home a bunch of stuffed things from the ground. Not this bunny.
Not
just left that right there.
The right feeling.
Yep.
It's still there.
Do not let this dissuade you from staying at this place if you're looking for somewhere. The people were lovely. Everything was nice.
Let it encourage you and
like,
entice you.
I mean, if they were like also haunted, I would have been like, yep, I will pay double.
Yep. There's like a causeway across the lake. I mean, there's dogs baying in the distance. Maybe dogs. Oh,
maybe a little owl.
Werewolves.
That goes, ha ha hoo.
That's not good.
Did you hear that?
What movie is that? There's some movie where it's a ha-ha.
Yeah, with like
it's the Babadook.
No.
You sure it's not the Babadook?
Yeah, this was the stuffed owl that belonged to the daughter of the cop who's working with like the slightly rogue priest.
Yes. Eric Banas is the cop.
Right,
he's like the hot cop.
Hang on, I'm going to find out what it is. All right, Ingo pulled it. Deliver Us from Evil is the name of the movie. You can buy, I was just like Googling it because you said that. You can buy a stuffed prop replica of the owl.
No. That's not good. That's spooky in the movie as very spooky.
When pressed, makes exact sound as the one in the movie does.
Why would you do that?
Oh my God.
That's a bad enough memory, let alone. Oh, I would be like, Vink, remove the ha-ha-hoo machine out of this owl, please.
Anyway, one of those owls was out there. Did you hear that owl?
I did not. No, at night, I mean, I wasn't out as much as you were during the night because you were walking Nacho. But I got up crack it before dawn, way before dawn, and it was like a bunch of roosters crowing, and again the hounds baying in the distance. And
hang on, we gotta handle a thing here. I had let Nacho out of his crate because Ingo had to take Hops out, and he wasn't doing anything bad, but he was about to start playing with guac, and we didn't have Remy put away, and so.
That's bad sound quality. That's for amateurs, man.
Vink,
what are you? That's your own brother on the porch. What are you guarding us from exactly? Don't wake up Grumpy, Vink.
Yeah, Vink. Jeez.
Anyway, so I heard some weird noises, and there was like weird splash in the water that sounded like something heavy had gone into it.
Like a body.
Well, a beaver. Maybe something big splashed into it that was more than just a fish, I thought.
There was some weird knocking and like up in a tree that I heard, but it sounded like a person knocking on it. And then also, anytime you would turn on the faucet and turn it off, they would sigh. They'd go.
They would. I was like, which dog is being unhappy? No, it sounded like sad children in an orphanage or something.
Absolutely did.
The kitchen. I heard that coming out of the kitchen corner a lot of times. I was like, who's make Hops? Is it? And Hops was like in a completely different part of the house.
Yeah, did it in the bathroom too.
Yeah, it's not. I mean, it's great if you're there for Halloween or to experience a haunting. I also did check the house out a little bit, and like there was some painting that was hanging like facing the side of the TV that made no sense. So I was like, So I pulled on it, and it opened up, and it was like a cabinet behind it.
That's cool.
There was nothing in it.
Hidden compartment behind a painting.
Hidden compartment behind a painting. That's door to painting it. It was cool. Yeah,
I want one of those.
I was like, I need to spend more time with this. But of course, I don't know if that was the ceiling or the floor or the wall because it's all the same wood. Yeah.
All right. Well, I think that's the end of our podcast.
That's the end of the whole thing?
Anything else you want to talk about?
Well, then we drove back the next day. The end.
The end.
The end. And now we're all very happy to be here.
I mean, even with all of the problems, it is nicer to be here.
Oh, the dogs love swimming and splashing.
Yeah.
And especially Hops.
Oh, she's so like sore but happy today.
Oh, she's overdone herself swimming and going up and down the ramp and chasing a ball and digging in the sand. But those are pretty good activities for her.
Yeah.
And everyone else is super happy to run around and chase ball and do whatever. Remy's like sniffing everything. Remy almost escaped, but kind of came back.
We don't really know where he was.
He hasn't told us what his adventure was, but he was gone for a little bit.
Yeah.
Not Cuba. He didn't make it all the way, but in the direction of.
Yeah.
But he did come back, so everything's fine, Remy. You're forgiven.
Remy will respond to a whistle, so not like a human whistling. I mean, maybe, but like I have a little like emergency whistle on my hydration packs, which I wear when I walk everybody. So when we couldn't find him, I was blowing that, and he comes every time I blow that whistle.
He absolutely was like, "What's that whistle?
Mm-hmm.
I'll come back. Check out what that whistle's for."
Yeah.
Yeah, but we haven't seen any lizards or anything, so he just decided to mosey on away. Mosey on off.
That. Yes, he does.
He gets bored.
Maybe he's secretly sending us a message. It's like, guys, I would really like to go someplace else. Thank you for all you've done, but I'm ready to go. I'm ready to move on now.
Remy, you're doing a bad job of it, I gotta say. This is very like hard to understand your actual signals.
Rem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, dogs and humans are recovering from the drive.
So we'll do a regular podcast this week. Ingo is doing Cheddar and Remy together up to Miami, so we're gonna have to put a little divider between the back seat and the cargo area to keep them separate. They'll be fine though.
No, Remy doesn't jump. It's Nacho that does the like completely just oozes into the back seat.
Yeah. So they're both going to Miami on Wednesday. There's a morning ophthalmologist appointment for Cheddar.
It'll be an early morning.
An oncologist appointment right around noon, I think, for Remy.
Yeah, that's civilized. I got to leave it like 6 on the dot or a little before.
Yeah, it's going to be a tough day for you.
Yeah.
And I'm actually flying out that afternoon, so I'll be able to take care of the dogs, but there will be a period where where you'll be on your way back from Miami and I'll be on my way to Dallas. So we'll probably record the podcast with all those updates like Friday.
Yeah,
because I don't get back until like
the
midnight.
Doctor's stuff and updates and latest. Otherwise, we'll have to do a postscript to the podcast if we did it on Tuesday.
Yeah, it'll just be like nothing has changed since Sunday, basically.
But we're anticipating a lot more information tomorrow.
Yeah, so it'll be a little bit late this week, but now you've got like an hour of early. So, okay, I think the dogs are saying it is time to end this podcast.
It's your brother on the porch, guys. It's not an intruder, boy. It's just hard to understand. How to explain this to everyone?
Yeah.
Anyway, okay.
All right. Well, thanks for listening, everyone. Sorry, this was sort of a downer podcast, but things are tough right now. And
I mean, it had a haunted cabin and that's a haunted Velveteen Rabbit.
yeah, for sure.
Spooky doll.
And until next time, Slava Ukraini, and don't bite anyone unless they ask you to.
Yeah, don't just stop the biting.
Bye.
Bye.